Well, as the shadows lengthen, we find ourselves at the end of Total Solar Day for our fourth week in April, and so we'll bring that to a close. I bring this to you from the mound in my front yard that was left by the 400 amp service that SMUD decided that we had to put in, or some calamity would befall mankind. So that's a good place to start from this perspective here, as we start to look back on what April taught us. Each one of these months, I think, has something to teach us. And April taught us quite a bit as far as the battery capacity, what was possible with the batteries and the vehicle. But it also taught us some things about our public utility, and probably some things about your own public utility as well. And that trust maybe goes only so far with this. I was very disappointed with SMUD. And let's go back over to the batteries, and we'll discuss it a little more when my feet aren't damp. So I suppose what I noticed most about the experience that I had recently with our public utility was that they were scared. They were scared. They were really scared. And not only our utility, but we've seen now that the automakers are scared. The oil companies are scared. Everybody is scared. Probably for good reason. So when we look back at April and what April's taught us, as we go back to the studio and go over the numbers, I think it's pretty clear what we're going to find out that they're scared of. And they're scared of March. And they're scared of April. May, June, July, August, September, a good bit of October. They're scared. They're scared. They're seeing that what's on the horizon with battery technology is that the customer now has the choice of how they want to spend their money. Do they want to spend their money with a utility that traditionally has their own interests that they put first, or do they want to spend their money in their own garage and on their own roof, producing their own power? And not power that's just used for the home. That's what we're seeing with the month of April. I was actually shocked that we were able to get as much driving as we were in March. Basically from, well, we can look back on that record, but I think it was basically from around March 14th, minus just a short bit, 150 miles or so of driving, all the way through now to the end of April and into the foreseeable future as far as that goes. As far as I don't see us reaching this same point. March is basically October. Okay? So this is going to be really interesting to see as it plays out for the remainder of the year. And I'm already impressed by what's gone on so far. And so let's go ahead and head back over to the studio, and let's go over the this last week of April and reflect a little bit on the entire month. And then in a few days, we'll go through April day by day. I may have to end April with a little bit of a discussion about what it is that we're seeing. I think that this is going to be how the remainder of the summer plays out well into autumn. So let's get to the studio and take a look at the numbers for the last week of April. Welcome back to the studio as we close out our 4th week in April. What an exciting month it's been. April represents a milestone in the year when we can truly say that we spent the first month self-powered. This truly is the first month that even the most staunch detractors of all of this have to say that, at least for the Energy Sovereignty Project as presented, April was self-powered. There's just no denying that. You know, with the home fully powered every day and a total of 1,292 miles driven on nothing but sunlight. You know, that needs to be stressed. This does represent a tangible time in the year where we can say that we're self-generating. And now we'll just see how long we can keep it up. Basically, April is September when you look at nothing but sun positions. And so then what'll throw a curve there will be possibly our seasonal weather patterns that we have here. And we'll see how that goes. Last year, the production lasted well into October. So we'll just have to take it day by day and see where we wind up. So with that, let's pick up where we left off. So on the 22nd, we've got sunny conditions with decent production. Starting the day 48% and ending at 94%. So quite a bit of production there, 58.9 kilowatt hours. We put quite a bit to the vehicle, 30 kilowatt hours to the vehicle. And again, you know, with ending the previous week with having the system so high, it was to our benefit then that we had to do a lot of driving. And so then we were able to put a considerable amount into the vehicle. And so here's the notes for the 22nd. And as we talked about last week, you know, this represents where we're going to probably start to change when we charge the vehicle. I'm going to trying to charge it, you know, later in the evening. Normally, when one would charge an electric vehicle when you come home, and the power is there. But again, what alters that is when the power comes in. If we wind up coming to a point where the system gets close to that 100% charged mark, then I may wind up making a concession going back over to the project home to try and dump some of that power into the vehicle. But here's the 23rd, and again, good production. We got the 30 kilowatt hours from yesterday that we delivered to the vehicle was brought to us in the first morning contribution, then brought that down to 38% with that power going to the vehicle, and that brought the vehicle up to a 90% charge. So we've got a good production, mostly sunny skies. And so then here's the notes. And then, you know, a little bit of confusion here, and sorry for that. So let me also pull up this screenshot here. So it got a little confusing there because we wound up putting charge into the vehicle late in the day. And so the result was that we had a little bit of spillover into the following morning. So if you look here to the far left, you'll notice that spike that's there, and that was attributed to yesterday actually spilling over into the 23rd. You'll also see that today that we did a systems check of the air conditioning system, and so just before 5 p.m. as the solar started to reduce, I went ahead and kicked the AC system on. We don't have a soft start on our AC system, and so we wanted to make sure that we didn't have a problem with that kicking the system off, even with the main power turned off. And for those of you who don't know what a soft start is, a soft start is basically a bank of capacitors that are attached to your AC system. When you turn on your AC system, because the compressor motors and everything are not moving, it takes a considerable amount of energy build up to actually kick them and get them to start. And a soft start system allows the AC system to get that power from the capacitors instead of having to put an increased load on the system, in this case from the batteries. Well, with 6 power walls, that's not an issue. But if you're trying to replicate what we're doing here with a system that has 3 or 4 batteries, then this kind of a test is something that you're going to really want to be mindful of. If you're running a lot of other appliances at the same time, that you don't want to get into a situation where you're kicking off the system somehow or tripping it off. The power walls do have a momentary burst mode where all of them will go to 7 kilowatts of output for a limited amount of time, about 12 seconds. But you definitely don't want to be taxing the system beyond that. But again, I didn't think it was going to be an issue because we had so many of the power walls, but your mileage may vary. So again, be mindful of what you're trying to accomplish with your personal systems when you design them. And the rest of what you see in the notes there are pretty standard stuff, vehicle information. So, and then we'll bring the 24th. Again, pretty standard stuff, good contribution. Ending total for the day at 74%, 12 kilowatts to the vehicle. Let you read that for a second there. And then here we got the notes for the 24th. And this is an important date as it represents the first time in the year where I'm starting to leave the AC system on during the day. Up to this point, there had been no need to have it on. Then we did the stress test the previous day, and I figured, well, I'll just leave it on and see what happens. And so then you'll see that AC symbol we've added to our group of icons at the top. The AC usage isn't all that much yet, but it does now contribute to our home usage on a more daily basis, and that also now will start to drive us up to what I had stated was the average yearly consumption of the home was right around that 30 kilowatt point. We've been running at the 24, 25, 26 kilowatt hours a day usage for the home ever since about February or so, January, where the heater was no longer functioning, so we didn't have the circulating home fan on all the time, and so we had seen quite a bit of a dip in our average production. And from this time in the year now, we're going to start to see that creeping up. It'll peak sometime in August, I believe, and we'll be running with the AC running quite often. We'll be in that kind of 40 to 42 kilowatt hour range. So we'll see how that goes. And so then we get the notes. Yeah, we got the notes. And so then here we got the 25th. And just like we saw the previous day, we see a decent production day. Home consumption just over 30 kilowatt hours. Like I said, this will creep up to around 45 kilowatt hours or so in August. Let you read that for a second. And then the notes, vehicle information, pretty much just what I said regarding the total average home usage. Again, you see the vehicles being maintained topped off. We're going to try and keep that going. That's generally how we like to keep the vehicles. And here is the 26th, and we see that problem starting again. We started the day at 50%, and if we don't do something with the extra power, we're going to have to come off of zombie apocalypse mode to be able to export the remaining power. We took charge to the vehicle of 33 kilowatt hours, and that brought the system charge from 95% down to 58%. And then here's the notes. Basically just that, high production day. You have to closely watch the system. And as luck would have it, driving finds me again heading to the Bay Area for a second round trip of over 100 miles on the 27th. And then just because I have it handy here, let's go ahead and pull up this screenshot here. Some folks might find this interesting. This shows the screen grab for what the system did for charging that day. It's kind of an interesting thing to look at there. The 4 kilowatt hump on the right hand side there, that's the AC system kicking in to cool the house, getting rid of some of the heat built up during the day, I guess. So just kind of interesting there to see. And then April 27th, starting contribution to 38%. Another heavy day of driving, so that allows the system to be kind of kept in check. Good production day. And so then the notes, 17 kilowatt hours to the vehicle in the morning to top it off so that we have enough freeboard so the system doesn't peak out. As you see, I managed to accidentally find a place to drive that will make a round trip that will fully deplete the battery. And so that's a round trip that I'll be making on occasion. It's something that we can kind of track over the course of the summer and then into the fall. And so then here's the 28th. Very good production, sunny day. Good thing too, because we needed to put a substantial amount of charge back into the vehicle once we got home. And so that round trip, we were able to put 40 kilowatt hours back to the vehicle. Also had a little bit of driving to do once we got home, and so then here's the notes for that. Basically, again, just what I had said. We arrived with the vehicle greatly depleted, and the car needed to be charged right away, so that we didn't leave it in that state for any length of time. And so that shows that we used 63 kilowatt hours for the day. Over the 63 kilowatt hours for the course of the round trip, leaving on the 27th. And so on the 27th we did a quick 17 kilowatt hour top off charge to bring the vehicle to 100% before we started out. And then once we arrived back home, we dumped 40 kilowatt hours back in to replenish part of that 60 kilowatt hour in total we used. And so we pull up another graph here. This is the charge cycle and solar contribution for the day. Again, I don't usually show these. Is it kind of interesting? Oh, it's interesting. Here we go. Flip that. So here we see where the massive charge to the vehicle in the middle of the day, and so then this one here is with the solar contribution stripped away. And if you look at the blue section there bordered by green, that shows where the solar contribution stops, and the slack is then taken up by the power walls. It's kind of an interesting thing to see. Then you also see the difference in peak size during the middle of the day, and again that's the difference between the contribution of solar from the total amount that's used. That drops that down. And hopefully this kind of thing helps folks like Terry to get a handle on how the replacement power works to the vehicle on a normal basis when you plug it in. And then finally we'll close out here on the 29th. Another sunny day, just like the past few days. Some AC use through the day, but it's not substantial. Good production. Read that for a second there, and then we've got the notes. Again, substantial amount to the vehicle to bring it up to 90% charge. A little bit of driving was done later in the day, and so then we wound up parking the vehicle with 83% charge and a little over 200 miles to be used for the following day. And that's about it for April. What a month. You know, we had a couple of days before we do our monthly closeout, but it's a good time here to take and reflect a little bit on the month. As you saw previously, we attended a rather discouraging meeting with our public utility, SMUD, where they were trying to work out how they were going to deal with the loss of revenue that occurs in this time of year, where you have people producing power in the middle of the day that then SMUD is counting on that they don't have to produce, and they're charging peak rates for that, and basically they're powering your neighbors' homes. And yeah, so what's becoming obvious as we go through this past month is how crazy this all is potentially going to be for the utility companies until they get used to the new normal. I'm imagining that if once every home is equipped with solar, when you have, at least in a suburban area like we are, that basically the grid is going to shut down in those areas for 4 to 6 months. They're not going to be drawing any power at all, and then they're going to start ramping up in winter. And so it'll be interesting to examine the Energy Sovereignty Project at the end of the year to see exactly how much overall reduction we can then apply once you imagine every household doing that. And so that's about it for this week. I'm going to start preparing the monthly closeout, and we should have that up pretty shortly. One thing I'll close with, though, at the beginning of the video we mentioned that we'd done over 1,200 miles of driving this month. And when we calculated it out on a daily basis, that came out to about 43 miles a day of driving on nothing but sunlight. And I would love to hear back from some of you as far as how that stacks up to the amount of driving that you all do on a daily basis. I'd really be interested in hearing back from some of you regarding that. So with that, thanks for joining us. And if this is your first time and this is something that appeals to you, please feel free to like and subscribe. If this is the first video that you've somehow stumbled upon, catch up to where we are now, find out how we got here, and good luck to all of you with your systems, and we'll get the monthly closeout finished, and then we'll get a start on May.